So good to have you on the SportsMax Zone, wherever you're watching across the Caribbean and in North America. Good afternoon to you. And we are pleased to share the pleasure of your company. Now, doubts are growing over whether the World Indoor Athletic Championships will be held in Nanjing, China from March 13 to 15, after China's leader Xi Jinping warned of the quote-unquote accelerating speed of the spread of the coronavirus in the country. On Sunday, the Asian Athletics Association announced it was canceling its indoor championships, which were due to take place in Hangzhou, that's 600 kilometers from Wuhan province, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. And this has led to increasing speculation within athletics circles that the World Indoors is also under threat. Now, World Athletics, formerly the IAAF track and field's governing body, has confirmed that it is in close discussions with the World Health Organization, the WHO, as well as individual federations, and that they are monitoring the situation carefully. At this point, no decision has yet been taken, and it's understood that organizers are still preparing to host the event as planned, which comes up in about 7 weeks' time. Now, we have heard from within Jamaica that the health minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, may issue some guidance, and I'm using my words advisedly here, some guidance to Jamaican athletes who are due to compete at the World Indoors about the health risks involved if they proceed to compete at the Games, if of course the Games are held in China. And today is a Parliament Day in Jamaica. I think the House of Representatives is still sitting, but we've managed to get the health minister to take a few minutes to speak with us, and he's online. Good afternoon, Dr. Tufton. Welcome to the SportsMax Zone, sir.
Hi, how are you?
We are good. I'm good. Tell me, insofar as the information available to you from your team is concerned, what are you likely to say to Jamaican athletes who are down to compete in Nanjing, March 13 to 15 at the World Indoors?
Well, I'll tell you what I have just said in Parliament, based on discussions at the level of Cabinet and with our multilateral and bilateral partners. we just announced that Jamaica is issuing, or will be issuing shortly, travel advisory to China for persons who are planning to go to China, and persons who are in China doing the same, asking them to hold on their plans to come to Jamaica. And that travel advisory applies to all concerned who have such intentions once they are leaving to or coming into Jamaica from China. This, for us, is important because of the monitoring that we have been doing and the consultations that have been taking place around the extent of the virus at this point, the spread of the virus, the restrictions that currently are in place in China, imposed by the Chinese government, restrictions of travel within certain jurisdictions, etc. And we continue to enjoy excellent relationships with the Chinese government, Chinese people. We have an active movement between both countries. I met with the Chinese ambassador this morning, but we did conclude that given all that is happening, for the time being, the advisory should be put in effect. Now, what will that mean for March 15th? It's difficult to say, because as events unfold, it really is a function of assessing, reassessing, and then making other decisions depending on the extent of the threat level.
And given the extensive containment measures rolled out by China and even Hong Kong, as announced earlier today, I was watching a press conference earlier this morning with Carrie Lam, you are saying that you are concerned enough to still go ahead and offer that travel advisory, despite the protection that the containment measures may afford persons who will have to travel or may travel to China even 2 months from now?
I'm the last one to want to dampen the enthusiasm and the sort of pride in representing our country and demonstrating our superior athletic prowess. And so it doesn't give me any pleasure to say this, but the reality is that we have to be concerned about the health and safety of our population. And if you look at the pace of the spread of the virus, a week ago it was in 3 or 4 countries. Today it's in about 15 countries. The numbers are rapidly increasing. If you look at the measures that are being taken by the Chinese authority, travel restrictions or advisories that have been imposed by other countries, the U.S., for example, the Centers for Disease Control, all of these combined indicates that there is need to be cautious. And in Jamaica's case, as a small island, we could be severely impacted if we did not operate or act out of an abundance of caution. Now, there's always a risk, and we have to keep assessing it, and that risk will adjust depending on what happens. But I think for now, one has to operate on the basis of the trends. And the trend is suggesting that the virus is spreading, not just within country, but in other countries. And so we are taking the decision based on that. But I don't know what it will mean in another 2 weeks or 3 weeks if that trend is cauterized and moves in the opposite direction.
This, Minister, as you know, is an Olympic year, and every meet is valuable in preparing for athletes to be cherry ripe by the time July 24 comes and the Olympics open in Tokyo. If it is that your ministry is to send a direct advisory to the J3As and, of course, the JOA, who are responsible for sending athletes to the World Indoors, what do you imagine that direct advisory to them would say about athletes going to Nanjing in March?
We would not. The Ministry of Health is not a standalone silo in the context of a government and indeed in the context of the world. So you wouldn't find us going contrary to what the rest of the world is doing, or indeed to what the World Health Organization or Pan American Health Organization are proposing. We depend on those entities. We're signatories to those entities and members, and therefore, I don't want the discussion to be placed in the context of the Ministry of Health versus, athletes participating. It really has to be placed in the context of a global concern, which will be impacted by global assessment and considerations. So it's very unlikely that Jamaica would take a position on its own, or certainly not likely that the Ministry of Health will take a position on its own. It's a function of all the other mitigating factors and discussions and advice. And what is important, though, is that we are part of that mix, because at the same time, we wouldn't want to put our nationals, whether athletes or otherwise, at risk, given all that has been said about the virus and the consequences if we become infected as a country or as individuals.
We respect that the situation is very dynamic at this time and that the information may change in the coming weeks, but for now, your position is clear. Thank you very much for taking time to speak with us, Minister. All the best.
All the best to you, man.
That's the Health Minister in Jamaica, the Minister of Health and Wellness, properly, Dr. Christopher Tufton.